Hey everyone, I'll wait for 10 seconds or so for people to join in. All right. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Chef Masterclass webinar series. Today we'll be talking about how you can create custom controls that suit your business requirements better. I'm your speaker, Sarthak Vasal. I'm a technical product marketing specialist at Progress Chef. And yeah, let's look into what we have in store for our webinar today. On in the agenda, initially we'll talk about compliance and security. What is the importance of compliance? What are the challenges faced? And how you can scan your infrastructure using Chef. So how Chef compliance will be a solution that you can prefer. We'll also look into a few of the demos. The first demo will be scanning and reporting using Automate UI. Then we'll have a demo on how you can create custom controls, and then we'll look into how you can prioritize compliance using waiver files and script controls. Towards the end, we'll also have a question and answer session. So, as I said earlier, please feel free to drop your questions in the question panel. So let's jump in. Just to have everyone up to speed, we do have some attendees who are relatively new to this. So, what is compliance? The English non-technical definition is to obey or adhere to specific laws or rules. So, similarly, in the industry as well, compliance means that a company adheres to the applicable rules and laws. This will include both specific laws by the country, and requirements from regular authorities, as well as internal company directives and for security purposes as well. Some of the common standards, if you've heard about this, are CIS benchmarks, that is Center for Internet Security, PCI, DCSs, HIPAA, GDPR. These are just a few of the examples. So why is compliance management important? Why is compliance in itself important? Failure to comply can result in steep fines, obviously, and these penalties are potentially damaging not only for the company financially, but also, it's bad publicity because most compliance rules, they relate to security. Failing compliance means failing security in a way. Compliance management not only reduces the regulatory risk, but informs the entire enterprise as well as the importance of compliance and how it can help you achieve it. So, apart from that, compliance management also involves technology to support the company's policies. All of those procedures, we'll be talking about how custom profiles can be something you might be interested in later in the webinar as well. So what are some of the challenges that people face while managing compliance? Of course, today's enterprises face numerous compliance rules, but each of these compliance regulation in itself is very complex. Now, while that is difficult, these compliance rules are regularly changing as well. Because of this, the internal compliance experts have to keep up with all of these and take steps to abide by new rule changes as well. While organizations struggle to keep up with these changes, brand new regulations also regularly appear. So keeping up with that also is a hassle. Of course, cybersecurity, my second point here, cybersecurity is central to compliance as well. But because of the ever evolving nature and growing intensity of the threats, the cyber threats require constant attention. I mean, fire was discovered before the fire extinguisher was invented. So new problems, or in this case, new cyber threats, are constantly on the rise in terms of the sheer volume as well its intensity. And also, as IT infrastructures expand and new platforms are added, the attack surface widens per se. So demanding continuous visibility and like strong defense to ensure compliance is very necessary. Now, once all that is done, the main challenging thing is managing it all. Like managing it all comes down to the fact that if done manually, you're losing crucial time and you're also being vulnerable to human errors. So the answer to the last point would be need for automation to scale across infrastructure. It's obvious enough. Now, this is where Chef comes into play. Uh, to sum up what you can do with Chef compliance, you can run compliance scans against your entire infrastructure. You can generate reports that show you the state of your environment and accordingly remediate the non-compliant systems as well. If you go through the all of the stages in the compliance lifecycle as well, if you draw your attention to the diagram, acquire is basically you can access trusted content aligned to industry benchmarks for audit and remediation, followed by define, which basically Chef makes it easy to define compliance baselines and tune them to the organization's unique needs, which is again a reference to custom flexible profiles that we'll be talking about later as well. After that, you detect, you continuously monitor and evaluate compliance posture by detecting deviations from your intended state. Once you detect some deviation, you remediate non-compliance with policy-driven remediation capabilities. And once that's done, you need a final concise report to maintain comprehensive and up-to-date visibility across your entire heterogeneous infrastructure. So now talking about the key features of Chef. Of course, we deliver curated content for audits and remediation and desktop configuration based on CIS certified benchmarks or DESA STIG benchmarks as well. Uh, we use policy as code approach where policies are managed with other application assets as part of your regular SDLC approach, including everything, versioning, checking, CI/CD, all of that. Thirdly, with the help of more than thousands of inspect resources, users can customize and write specific controls based on their needs. Again, something we'll be looking into as part of the demos as well. And the waiver features, compliance waiver, its purpose is to indicate when a control is exempted or for how long or when the exemption occurs. This will help you in prioritizing your compliance. Again, something we'll be looking in a demo following this. Of course, automated remediation helps you close the loop between audit and remediation to enable continuous compliance in the enterprise. So compliance remediation, and followed by that, we also provide an end-to-end view across various systems managed both at an executive summary level as well as at a very granular level where we are able to point to the actual code which is being executed behind the scenes. So let's get our hands dirty now. We'll dive into one of our three demos that we have in our agenda today. The first demo being scanning and reporting using Automate UI. So let me quickly go to my Automate and log in. All right. So as soon as you log in, the first thing that will pop up is your dashboard. If you have your infrastructure up and running, you'll be able to see everything that's happening here. I've already created some dummy data so you can know how it would look like. Your entire infrastructure would be here if you had your nodes. And if you go to your compliance tab, I have a few nodes already set up here. This is where you'll be able to see your entire infrastructure. You can click on which node is skipped, which node is failed, all of that. You can see all of the reports here as well. Now let's look into how you can generate these reports. Once you go to your settings, you can click on node integrations, where you can create an integration based on whatever node management service you're using, AWS, Azure, GCP. You can provide a name for your node, API or EC2, whichever it is. Give your AWS access key ID, secret key, and you can save your integration here. Apart from that, if you have an actual node that you want to add, you can go to node credentials instead. You can click on create a credential and give all the details, your name of the node. Of course, you can change this later, your credential type being SSH, WinR, and based on what you're using, your username, password, or RSA key, and you can create a credential as well. I have a few credentials here already. Going back to our compliance, you can go click on profiles. Once it loads up, you'll be able to see that I have a few profiles here already. We have 831 available profiles, which are CIS, all of these benchmarks, various benchmarks that you can all access. Anytime you need to access any of the benchmarks, you can easily just press on get, and you'll have it under your profile section, where you can, of course, have a look at what the actual profiles are as well. So if I click here, it'll tell me what the control does, the actual code. And once your profile is with you, you can create a scan job here. You can add your nodes in this tab and create a scan job. For now, I already have a Windows machine ready here. So I press on next. I choose the profile that I want to run it against. Choose next. Let me give a name, demo scan 01. I can optionally set a schedule for this as well, when it's supposed to start, when it should end. If I repeat it you can choose to repeat it in days, hours, minutes, weeks, or months based on your preference. For now, I'll run it as is and I'll save it. So this does take a little bit of time. I have a few reports here already. You can go to nodes, click on the node that is. And here you can see we have a very detailed report of the actual compliance scan as well. So the entire compliance profile had 40 controls, out of which 28 have failed and 12 have passed. This is the list of all the controls. We can filter them if you only want to see the failed controls. You can easily click on which control has failed. And you can also check the source, the actual control file, the code that ran in the background as well. Same goes, you can check there's a brief description of what has happened, followed by the actual code that is ran as well. Yeah, here we go. So our demo scan that we just ran is ready as well. As I was saying, this was the scan that I had run earlier as well. So this is how you can navigate around Chef Automate UI. Let me go back to our second demo. We'll be creating a custom control. So as I was saying earlier, businesses might require having their own flexible compliance profiles. So what you can do is, in this demo, we'll look into how you can download an existing profile and edit these controls based on your requirements, or you can also create a new control from the scratch. Let me jump back to my Automate UI, go to Profiles, and I already have my CIS Microsoft Windows Server profile here, which is the profile I wanted to uh, change or make changes to. If I click here, I get this option to download the profile. Once I go click here, I'm able to see it opens the actual code of all the control files present here. So let's make a few changes just to see how that works. So if you look at this control, it says ensure maximum password age is set to 365 days or fewer. So just to make it a little more safe, let me change that to 180. Make sure you change that in the title as well, just so you don't get confused. Here it is. I can change it to should be less than 180. It should be in the summary as well, which should be changed. Another control that we can change right now is, yeah, ensure minimum password length is set to 14 just to make it a little more secure. Let's change it to 16. Make that 16. This should be 16. Here it is as well. Now, because we've changed the controls a little bit, this is no longer a CIS security benchmark because we've changed it. So what we'll do is we'll make sure we reflect the nomenclature as well. So just to make sure we don't mention this being a sys security benchmark, I'm going to just replace the name with custom, replace all. Yep. And you'll also have an inspect.yaml file. Best practice is to change the name of all this to custom as well because this is not a CIS benchmark anymore. So I'm just going to remove the CIS tag from there, just leave it custom. Now you can zip this file and going back to my automate, I've actually uploaded my profile here already. As you can see here, it says custom Microsoft Windows Server 2019 benchmark level 1. Ideally, once you've zipped your file, you should be able to upload it from here. You can select your file and upload it locally, and it should appear here. I've also added a benchmark by myself, which is, I've mentioned it as rule 0, where I've made sure that the port 631 is closed. I've given the rationale as because TCP port 631 is IPP, which serves as a foundation for printing over the internet. It allows remote attackers to cause a DDoS attack, denial of service, yes. So just to make sure this is also a control that we're checking in, I had added that before I uploaded it here as well. And you can see our changes are reflected here. This is 180 or fewer, 16 or more characters. Now let's run a scan job to see that as well. I'll use the machine that I already have, my custom profile. I'll put custom scan. Yep. Save. Let's wait for it to finish running. It takes a little while because it has a lot of controls. As I mentioned earlier, you can also schedule these scans, which is ideally what you should be doing every once in whatever is best for your enterprise. So you should have a continuous compliance scan running. So every once in a while, you have a report. Now that we have ours here, let's click on report, nodes. As you can see, the custom control that we had added, port 631 has passed. which means it is closed. So I click here. It says 631 is expected not to be listening, and it wasn't listening, so the control has passed. You can see the source code of that as well. Describe 631 should not be listening. If we scroll a little further down, we can see how the change 180 of your days has passed as well. But minimum password length being 16 has failed. If you click on Y, it says minimum password length was expected to be 16 or greater than 16, but we got only 5. So that's how you would create your own, either create your own custom controls from scratch. Of course, here I used an existing template of a CIS benchmark, but you can obviously make a compliance profile from scratch. Or you can do what I did, where you can make sure the existing benchmark is more secure based on a few modifications that you've done. Let me go back to my presentation. For the third demo, we look into waivers and skipping controls. So, of course, you have a lot of controls like we just saw. A few of these controls maybe have failed, but you know that this is not as important. So you can choose to deprioritize them. Let's say, for example, there is an update in Windows that has a new Windows OS update, but you know that this system, your infrastructure is running on a previous older version and you want to keep it that way for some reason. What you can choose to do is skip the control indefinitely. So this way it doesn't show up as a failed control, rather it shows up as a skipped control because you are aware that this is a control that would have failed if you ran it. In the same example, let's say after some time you actually choose to upgrade your OS. Now you want it to run. What you should have done is you can waive a control till a specific date. We'll look into how you can do both of them. Yep. So here you see I run a compliance scan locally against a custom profile that I already had. Now, as you can see, it shows 2 control failures out of 76 passed. If I scroll up, I see cube control 27 and 18 have failed. Let me clear my screen and navigate to the compliance directory in my workstation. Go to my profile. The actual control file, if I navigate into that, this is my actual control file, and we saw that Kubernetes control 18 had failed. So let's say we decide to skip this control indefinitely. I'm going to put an only if statement as false here. So that makes sure that the Kubernetes control 18 is not, it doesn't run every time I run the scan. That is how you skip a control. Now, if you look into how you want to waive a control to a specific date, you will navigate yourself to the waivers directory. Open the wave.yaml file or whatever you have named it. As you can see here, I'll change everything to the actual control that I want, my expiration date, run as false until when I need it to be waived off. After that, I'll make sure I run cook style so my code is error free. No offense detected. So now I can push this compliance profile to my server. I use policy files here to do the same. I install a chef install policy file.rb. After that, I push to the default policy. Once that's done, I run the command again to run the scan, and I see there are 0 control failures and 2 controls have skipped. Scrolling up, you can see 27 was waived. This control is waived. and 18 was skipped indefinitely. So I go to automate as well. I can see in the same scan, one skipped and one waived control. Going back. That will be the end of our demos as well. Now, before I start questions, I would also like to mention that we have our Learn Chef page. Let me paste that in our chat as well. You can use, you can access this link and get your certification courses for your chef skills. So we have two certification courses, which is Associate Chef Certification, and we also have the Executive Chef Certification, both of which you can use to certify your chef skills. The link should be pasted in the chat. You guys can access it. If you guys have any other questions post this, please feel free to add these questions as in under the questions panel. I have a few questions here that I can see. Where can we find content for remediating the failed controls? So we provide audit and remediation content through the premium content offering, where CIS and DataStack curated content is given. But of course, there is also our chef community platform, which is Chef Supermarket, which can help you with the same as well. The next question is Chef Automate UI required to run compliance scans? So Automate UI gives you the visibility. It'll make it easier for you to know what is happening within your compliance, what is happening with your compliance scans, what is happening within your infrastructure. So while we strongly do recommend using Automate to have all of the concise reports through a single pane of glass, you can definitely run your compliance scans as part of your infra client runs. So this concept is called the compliance phase, and we actually discussed this in one of our previous episodes of the webinar series as well, in episode 3 of the masterclass series. This is actually a perfect segue for me to show you guys where you can access this as well. So if you go to our chef.io page, click on resources and webinars, you'll have access to all the VODs of our older episodes. Of course, our upcoming webinar, which is next month, 24th of October, on signed profiles and inspect parallel is also coming. So in case you guys have any interest in that, please feel free to register. I would also urge you to drop it in the chat if you guys have certain topics that you would want us to cover in the upcoming webinar series. This webinar, the next episode for next month will be covered by Akshay, who's the manager for technical marketing at Progress Chef. So very interesting episode if you guys are looking forward to this. Otherwise, if there are any other topics that we have not covered yet and you would like for us to cover, please feel free to drop that in the chat section as well. We have a few other questions that we would come back to. We will reach out to you through email for time's sake. And if there's no other queries, I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for joining, everyone.